Let's bring in Louise Chen from Cantor Fitzgerald. She's got an overweight rating and a $215 price target on J&J. So, Louise, this makes sense to you?
Yes, I think this makes a lot of sense. I think separating the two businesses right at the peak of how they're doing so well after COVID is really important for the company. And right now, they're going to show accelerated growth on top of above market growth rates with this separation. They've got new leadership coming in. They've got a new CEO and new leadership to be named. Chief Scientific Officer still not named yet. And then Organon, they haven't named the slate of directors there yet either. So I think it's a more focused company, a more nimble organization. And I think it's what the street wants to see.
Then why is the stock only up 1.3%? This is a major transformation for a company to have a split like this. Why such a lackluster reaction?
Yeah, I think it's going to take a while for the market to digest what they're doing here. So some of the plans that they've laid out for consumer are not out there and disclosed yet. They've talked about disclosing some of that in 2022. And I think people aren't fully convinced yet of how the growth behind medical devices and pharma will be bolstered by this separation, right? So they've done a great job on pharma, growing double-digit growth consecutively over many quarters, and that's well above the industry average, but that's not fully appreciated. So I think those are two aspects of it. And one other thing I think is the talc and opioid litigation. I think trying to understand and digest how that will go along with these businesses that are separated, I think there's still some concern about that.
What is the risk overall, Louise? Where could this go wrong?
I think only it could go wrong is on the execution part, right? So it makes sense. I think what they're doing is what a lot of other companies in the space have done, and where I see some of the companies still making additional divestitures of non-core assets or assets that are better separated out. But I think from an execution perspective, it's a big endeavor. This company has been together for a long time. It's a big organization. So that could be some of the risk behind it.
Louise, I've been excited about it as someone who focuses on consumer products. I always think J&J should be covered that way as well. They have Neutrogena and Aveeno and feminine
becomes your
hygiene
stock
product. Yes, exactly. Some of the analysts, I think, should be covering it. And I do wonder if it becomes a target for a P&G or a Unilever or one of those companies, or if it's big enough to stand alone and compete with them.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, because they haven't given the full plan yet. But I definitely think it could be formidable enough to be a competitive company and a more nimble company. And I think of the animal health space as being a great example of how spinouts of these companies have actually really led to a greater investor appreciation of them. One of the stocks out there that I thought was great that Pfizer spun out was Zoetis. So hopefully that will be the same for their consumer business as they become more nimble and more focused just on consumer products.